I had a couple of people ask me where I met the guys that I've seen since I started at Banding, Red Wine, and the guy who caused me a great moral dilemma about whether or not to ghost, who will henceforth be known as Ghost Town. Even with the 8 apps I'm juggling right now, I have yet to get a date out of any of them. So Red Wine was a setup through a mutual friend, but Ghost Town was actually through a matchmaking company. So I wanted to take a second to talk about that. About 3 years ago, I went on a speed dating event because I had just gotten ghosted by a guy I really liked and I was in a very fuck it place. The company is called mycheekydate, which I hate having to say. I don't know why I expected any better with a name like that. 1 out of 10 on the name. They are active in over 60 cities globally. They offer in-person and virtual speed dating events, matchmaking, and even advice packages, which I would not recommend wasting your money on. You can get it from me for free. The first time I had to pay to attend the speed dating event, it's about $30. It was at a bar in West Hollywood. They have you come in, get a drink if you want, fill out your name tag, and they have you seated in a big circle in a lounge area. Both times I've gone, the women stayed seated and the men rotated around. They give you a scorecard to fill out. It feels very high school sleepover, and it's super awkward to take notes about people right in front of them. My card was mostly blank at the end of the night, partly because I didn't want to make anyone feel badly and partly because I hated everyone that I met. So then when you're done, you leave your card there with your top 5 picks out of 10 mini dates, and if any of them match up mutually, they'll connect you via email. That part of the process actually works pretty well because you don't have to let them down in person. So I would totally recommend doing a speed dating event if you haven't already, just maybe not with this company. I guess I got high marks from a few people, which is probably just because I hate awkward silences and love drinking. So mycheekydate asked me if I wanted to have access to their matchmaking services for free. She set me up on one of the worst dates I've ever been on. I vowed to never do it again, but this bitch emailed me incessantly. I should honestly just date Christine because she's so obsessed with me. I never have anything in common with these guys. It's always like, Sarah, we have a lovely guest in mind for you. He's 22, 7'5", hates animals and travel, distributes guns for a living, has never laughed at a joke or seen a therapist. Let us know what you think. So after a 2-year hiatus, I went on another setup with a paid client through her, and it was Ghost Town. A fine date, but no connection, and definitely won't be doing it again this time. A few takeaways. The first speed date I went on was a wild ride. These were my 2 favorites. The guy who covertly told me he had discovered the one religion that would lead to world peace. I asked, what is it? And he scoffed and said, I'm not gonna tell you that. How much do you want to bet that it was Scientology? These events usually have an age limit of 38, but this guy said, you know what? That doesn't apply to me. And then there was a painfully awkward young man with candy-colored hair who refused to ask me a single question. Looking back, I wish that we had just sat there in silence because maybe it would have taught him something, but instead I did this. What do you do for work? Finance. What do you do for fun? Yoga. Do you have any pets? No. Siblings? Yeah. The only thing that broke it up was when he told me that he liked to do drag shows and showed me pictures, which was actually really cool. And it was the only time I ever saw him light up during our conversation. But it felt to me like he was more comfortable being in drag than he was being himself. The second time I went was much less eventful, and I actually did meet one guy that I wanted to match with. That is until I found out that he was from San Diego and drove up to LA just for this. Call Betsy Ross because that is a massive red flag. If you ever want to feel better about your dating life, remember that I went to that event by myself on a summer Friday evening and then went through the McDonald's drive-thru and was home by 9 p.m. And the first setup I went on was with a guy I'll call Baby Daddy. He was very sweet, but Christine told me he was 10 years younger than he was, and he also had 3 kids from 3 different mothers, one of whom was half my age at the time. Totally fine, but what the fuck, Christine? I maybe should have been kept in the loop on that. He was a great conversationalist, which ultimately led to our downfall because I was trapped there for 3 hours and we only got 1 drink and no food. Which leads me to my star rating. 2 out of 5, I can't tell you the amount of mistakes they've made. Grammatically, timing-wise, descriptively, they really need to clean up their act. She still emails me about guys in LA, even though I told her that I moved to New York months ago. And she actually tried to set me up on a date with a guy in LA the night before my date with Ghost Town. And I reminded her that I was here and had a date through her the following night. And she was like, yep, have fun. So I would mostly stay away from this company, but I will say that they usually have more men sign up than women, so maybe give it a try if you're